What's up, everybody? Welcome back for another Monday night video in the shop here, Loganbuilt headquarters, talking about products. Tonight I want to go over with you guys some of my rebuild kit options, let you guys know what we have available, how we can accommodate you. I have everything from an entry-level transmission all the way to 800 horsepower builds available as a kit, meaning that you yourself can build your transmission in the exact way with the exact same parts that I use in all of my builds. So let's jump into these rebuild kits and talk a little bit about what you get. So quick rundown on the rebuild kit itself. All of these kits are going to be based off of the same thing, and as you go up in horsepower, you're just going to add more parts to them. A quick rundown would be, you got a paper and rubber gasket kit, have an overdrive snap ring, overdrive direct snap ring. You've got thrust washers, overdrive selective spacers, pump seal, pump bushing, bushing kit, bands. We've got steels, clutches. I use all GPZ clutches, and what I do, depending on what you're doing with your power level, we may or may not do choline steels. Overdrive clutches are going to be GPZ. Raybestos overdrive directs, Gearin Belleville springs, pretty much standard issue on everything. Selective snap ring kit, Gearin 3.8 lever kit, Sonex front servo cover, Gearin billet front servo, rear overdrive planetary bearing kit. This particular setup that we're putting together is 600 horsepower build, so it's getting a billet input shaft. And basically, this is going to be the main base that you start with, plus a few other parts that you don't see here. But basically, this is the main base for any of the transmission builds. And then as we go up in power, we add more things like billet shafts. When you get up to the 1,000 horsepower builds, that's where it's back to doing the stuff in-house here, because there's a lot of things that have to be set up, particularly for the 1,000 horsepower. That's when we get into the apply regulated lockup with the valve bodies, more specific stuff. But lower horsepower stuff, this is what you're going to get as far as the rebuild kit itself goes. So along with the rebuild kit, every single build is going to get a Gearin deep pan kit. The kit comes with the pan. The reusable gasket is what I like to use. The filter spacer, the bolt kit, and the hardware, the tooling to install the hardware. The filter spacer is very important on any transmission that's high horsepower or above stock power. You want to get the filter lower into the fluid, and so you accomplish that via a fluid filter spacer. And that's very important because if the filter is not down in the fluid low enough, it will cavitate the pump during the shifts, and that will create a drop in line pressure and premature failure of your transmission. So that's one of the reasons I really like the Gearin pans, because they understand the importance of the filter spacer. The way that these pans are designed, this is actually sumped here in the middle. So when you do a fluid and filter change, you get all of the fluid out of the pan, makes it nicer. And then because of this Gearin patent design on the bottom, you're able to set this thing on a transmission jack very nicely for installing or removing the transmission. And then moving into some of the other things that you're going to get with every kit would be a Gearin valve body. This is the probably most important part between this and the converter of the entire transmission build. The valve body is basically the brain of the transmission. The reason that I buy these valve bodies complete from Gearin, and that's how I sell them, is because every valve body gets ran through their dyno tester and confirmed that every function works. So it's a peace of mind for the builder and the consumer knowing that this valve body checked out good. So if you do have a problem, you know that it's 99.9% most likely not the valve body. So every single build gets a valve body. The valve body is going to be specific to your year truck, which is why you'll need to know what transmission you have and what model year it is, so that way you can get the proper valve body. So that's going to be entry-level transmissions and all the way up to 800 horsepower transmissions. That's the meat and potatoes of what you get. Now, on the stock style transmissions, like an entry-level or an entry-level 2.0, we will use a single disc converter like shown here. These are good for those two builds. These are about 500 horsepower safe. If you want to know all about torque converters, check out my last video about torque converters. I go into all that really in depth. If we're going to go with a 600 or 800 horsepower rebuild kit, then you're going to get a triple disc converter, so it handles the extra horsepower. The entry-level kits don't come with the flex plate. The entry-level 2.0s do, and the entry-level kits do not come with a billet input shaft. Entry-level 2.0 gets a Gearin economy billet input shaft, and then the 600 and 800 horsepower units get Sonex input shafts. The 800 horsepower unit will get a Sonex output shaft as well. But essentially, that is what you're getting when you're ordering any of those 4 rebuild kit options from me. Okay, so now that you know what all comes in these build kits from me, these DIY kits, you're probably going to ask yourself, which kit do I need for my build, my application? A lot of things go by horsepower rating, but horsepower rating only tells part of the story. The use and application that you're using these for is also very important. That's why I like to talk to people on the phone when they're ordering this stuff, so that way they make sure that they get exactly what they need. For example, a stock truck that just has a small 30 horsepower tune might be totally fine with an entry-level kit if they're doing very light towing, something 7,000 pounds or less. Maybe they have a small boat, something along those lines. They don't tow all the time. Sure, entry-level, no problem. But if you have that same configuration, same 30 horsepower tune, and you pull a 25,000 pound hay trailer and you do that once a week, you're going to want to actually go with the 600 horsepower build. Not because you necessarily need it for the horsepower, but because you need all these other parts that come along with it to make that transmission hold up and live in that sort of environment. Same thing for the entry-level 2.0 build. If you have a truck that you're towing, 10,000 pounds and you want a little bit more peace of mind than just the entry level, the 2.0 is a good upgrade. It's going to get you a economy billet input. It's going to get you a billet flex plate. You don't have to worry as much about those two things breaking. And then if you're getting, say you have a 650, maybe 700 horsepower truck, and you don't four-wheel drive launch it, and you pretty much drive it nice, you can probably get away with the 600 horsepower build. But that same 650 to 700 horsepower might need the added 800 horsepower build if you are four-wheel drive launching, so that way you get that billet output shaft. So several things to consider. Use along with horsepower. The weight of your truck is also a factor. Say you have a 4th gen truck that you are 48 swapping, you probably do not want to go with any of the entry-level transmissions, regardless of what it is, just because those trucks can make 500 plus horsepower with just tuning, and they're very heavy. So you might want to go with a 600 or 800 horsepower kit right off the get-go. There's lots of different options. If you have any questions about it, feel free to shoot me an email to info@getloganbuilt.com or get on the phone with me at 859-466-7737. Love to talk to you guys about what you're working on and get you guys these DIY kits. With everything as crazy expensive as it is nowadays and everything's through the roof, I'm noticing more and more people moving back into the DIY type stuff, and I want to be able to be here to accommodate you guys, to get you guys parts in your hands that would be the same as me doing the builds for you. So that's all I got for this one, guys. Hope you find it helpful. If you guys like more of this transmission talk, drop a comment below, let me know. Hit that like button, and if you're new here, subscribe, and like always, see you next time.